Good morning, everyone. I call this regular meeting that's been rescheduled for the Westchester County Board of Legislators to order. If we all could please rise. Today is Monday, October 29th. The meeting was originally scheduled for 7:30 p.m. and it was moved on Friday with proper notice to 11 a.m. this morning. And we will be led in our pledge by Mr. Harker.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Almighty God, give us the strength, courage, and wisdom to always act in the best interest of the people of Westchester County in this chamber. Let us keep in mind every decision that we make impacts the life, health, and safety of all our great county residents. Amen. Madam Clerk.
Majority Leader Harcum.
Yes.
Minority Leader Mazzano.
Here.
Ms. Borgia.
Here.
Mr. Burrows.
Here.
Mr. Gelfarb.
Here.
Mr. Kaplowitz.
Here.
Ms. Marcotte. Ms. Myers. Ms. Perez. Mr. Ryan.
Here.
Ms. Shimsky.
Here.
Mr. Smith.
Here.
Ms. Spreckman. Mr. Testa.
Here.
Ms. Williams.
Here.
Mr. Williams.
Here.
Mr. Chairman.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Mr. Harcum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this time, I would move the consent agenda with the following suggested revisions. On page 2, item 1, instead of government reform, efficiency, and savings, government operations. On page 3, number 3, in addition to Committee on Community Services, that should also go to the Committee on Legislation. And on page 4, number 4, in addition to Committee on Government Operations, that should also go to the Committee on Budget and Appropriations.
Thank you, Mr. Harcum. Mr. Mazzano. Mr. Williams.
In agreement.
We are on items of consent. Mr. Harcum on the minutes approval.
Would move the minutes from the Monday, October 15th meeting that was held at 7 p.m.
Thank you, Mr. Harcum. Without objection, members, so ordered. Madam Clerk, public comment.
Mr. Chairman, I have no cards for public comment.
Well, that's so good. Thank you so much. At this time, we have scheduled on the agenda a resolution for a public hearing. As members know that this was scheduled for tonight at 7:30 p.m. and because our meeting was changed based on the weather and the weather emergency, we are going to have to postpone this to the earliest date, which is our next available meeting, and we have to renotice it. So it will be renoticed in the newspaper, and we will have this public hearing, which will be November 13th at 7:30 p.m. That's just for the record. Madam Clerk, unfinished business, Mr. Kaplowitz is here. Thank you, Mr. Kaplowitz.
Under unfinished business, item 5602, this item was held over from the October 15, 2012 regular meeting, appears here as an item of unfinished business for committee referral only. It's a memorandum of legislation proposing a law requiring the mandatory review by the Westchester County Attorney of all acts and local laws pending before the Board of Legislators.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Long roll call to refer to committee.
Mr. Harcum.
Nay.
Yes.
Mr. Mazzano. Yes. Ms. Borgia.
No.
Mr. Burrows.
Yes.
Mr. Gelfarb.
Aye.
Mr. Kaplowitz.
Aye.
Ms. Marcotte.
Aye.
Mr. Ryan.
No.
Ms. Shimsky.
Nay.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Testa.
Yes.
Ms. Williams. No. Mr. Williams.
No.
Mr. Chairman.
No. Yeah, it's interesting. Ties. Tie goes to the runner. Actually, we need a majority of votes. Yeah, except for local laws. Yeah. I'll check again. It's just actually to refer to committee. Madam Clerk, next item.
Item 5007 was held over at the October 15th regular meeting, appears here as an item of unfinished business for action. From the Committees on Budget Appropriations, Government Operations, and Environment and Energy, a resolution determining there will be no significant impact on the environment from the removal of 3 parcels of property from the Sawmill Valley Sanitary Sewer District located in the town of Mount Pleasant.
Ms. Borgia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Committee on Government Operations reviewed this parcel and upon the reports determined that it would not have significant impact on the environment, and I'll take the second resolution as well, that these 3 parcels would not have an impact on the removal of these 3 parcels would not have an impact on the sanitary sewer district, and we are recommending it be approved.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Other members on this item? Madam Clerk, let's have a long roll call vote for ID number 5007.
Mr. Harkam.
Yes.
Mr. Mazzano. Yes. Ms. Borgia.
Yes.
Mr. Burrows. Yes. Mr. Gelfarb. Aye. Mr. Cohen.
Aye.
Ms. Marcotte. Mr. Ryan.
Yes.
Ms. Shimsky.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Testa.
Yes.
Ms. Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
The item is approved 14-0. Item 5008 from the Committees on Budget Appropriations, Government Operations, Environment and Energy, an act to modify the Sawmill Valley Sanitary Sewer District by the removal of 3 parcels of property located in the town of Mount Pleasant.
Ms. Borgia.
As previously discussed, so moved.
Members without objection will take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 14-0. Item 5035 was held over at the October 15, 2012 regular meeting, appears here as an item of unfinished business for action, submitted by the Committees on Government Reform, Efficiency and Savings, Legislation, and Community Services. A local law amending the laws of Westchester County by adding a new Chapter 177 relating to the establishment of a Westchester County Office for Women.
Ms. Williams.
Mr. Chair, this item was discussed at the last meeting and in the Community Services Committee meeting, and some significant changes were made in terms of the qualifications, and we feel that this legislation should move forward. So moved, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Other members on this item? Unless there's objection, we'll take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 14-0. Understanding committees. Item number 1, 5545.
Over.
Over Mr. Harkam. Item number 2, 5546.
Over.
Over Mr. Harkam.
Mr. Harkam, I know you want to explain.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. It's customary that we don't explain overs, but I think I should just put out for the record that we had to over this because we were not able to hold the public hearing as you explained. So this will be coupled with the new public hearing, so people should not construe anything about this over other than a ministerial act.
Thank you, Mr. Harkam. Madam Clerk.
Item 5402 from the Committee on Public Safety and Security and the Committee on Legislation is an act directing the Commissioner of the Westchester County Department of Emergency Services to conduct an inventory of the mobile and/or portable generators owned by the County of Westchester and conduct a survey of all municipalities to assess the emergency power needs of their critical municipal facilities.
Mr. Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just very quickly, during 2 major storm events the last summer and fall, we recall that many areas of Westchester County were without power for many days, and some areas went up to a week without power. And here we are today meeting. We have Hurricane Sandy bearing down on us, and we're kind of bracing ourselves, hopefully prepared as possible to deal with the threats that this hurricane will bring to Westchester County. certainly last summer and fall, and possibly even this week, many local governments and local emergency operations centers and shelters were without power and utilized emergency generators. And some of these generators were obtained from the county, and I think we were all able to conclude that once again, there didn't seem to be enough generators to go around for these large events that affect many parts of Westchester. So I have to commend at this point our Majority Leader, Pete Harcum. He brought a piece of legislation to the board that was referred to our committees on public safety and legislation. So today, let me just briefly tell you that what's before you is a request by those two committees, a request that, should we pass it, will direct the Commissioner of the Department of Emergency Services to conduct an inventory of the mobile and portable generators owned by the County of Westchester, and also to conduct a survey of all municipalities in Westchester County to assess the emergency power needs of their critical municipal facilities. And in connection with this survey, your two committees are seeking to request that municipalities identify for us their critical facilities such as police, fire, emergency operations centers and shelters, and that each municipality is determined which must remain operational when there is a power outage. And we're also requesting that municipalities identify whether or not there are things like tap boxes for easy generator connection, that kind of technical thing, which would be a big help to us. And finally, that we request them to measure the electrical load of the critical municipal facility and provide such data to the county. So that, very quickly, is, in summary, is the report of the two committees, and we urge its adoption, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Mr. Harcum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, I'd like to thank Chairman Ryan and Chairwoman Perez for their work in shepherding this through their committees. I'd like to thank colleagues on both sides of the aisle for input into this legislation. There's good bipartisan cooperation. Thank Commissioner Cullen, who is very helpful in helping us navigate this as well. As Chairman Ryan points out, the last two storms in my district, we were without power for the better part of a week. The local municipalities and OEM facilities did have their own generators. Many of them burned out. And the county is the second line of defense. And we had to scramble. In most cases, not every case, we were able to find generators. But it occurred to me, if this were a major countywide event, for instance, like we might be facing today, would we have the backup capability? So this legislation will do a couple things. It will actually help the local municipalities with their disaster planning, because they need to determine their critical infrastructure needs and generator needs. And then we'll do an inventory of our backup capability. And then jointly with our municipal partners, we can better regionally coordinate our planning efforts. Do we need to seek FEMA funding to purchase more generators, either at the local level or at the county level? Fortunately, most generators can be obtained through FEMA grants as opposed to local property tax dollars, but that's a discussion down the road. Right now, we need to get the inventory done. Commissioner Cullen tells us it'll take his department about 8 months, which is timely. And just anecdotally, I spent much of yesterday working with county officials trying to get a generator for the Red Cross shelter in Mount Kisco. So again, thanks to Commissioner Cullen and Deputy County Executive Plunkett for their assistance with that as well. So I thank colleagues and urge its passage.
Thank you, Mr. Harcum. Other members? All right. Unless there's objection, members, we'll take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 14-0. Item 5575 from the Committees on Government Operations and Budget Appropriations. An act authorizing Westchester County to release any rights in real property located at 1-28 Lewis Court, Rybrook, New York, necessary to subordinate a home mortgage held by the county on the real property comprising the Grant Street Affordable Senior Housing Development, and modify the terms of the promissory note secured by said mortgage.
Ms. Borgia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The item is for a refinancing of a unit that was received its first mortgage in 1999 and was completed in 2002. It does have 26 units of affordable senior housing. It came before the committees because the county attorney's office felt that it should have Board of Legislator approval since there was a change in the county's rights and properties. This refinancing will allow the owner to make necessary improvements of the common areas and other things that need to happen in the units. It is a beautiful facility housing seniors in our county, so we recommend that it's be approved.
Thank you, Ms. Borgia. Members on this item? Unless there's objections, members will take the prior roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 14-0. Item 5623 from the Committee on Budget and Appropriations is an act authorizing the county to release any rights in real property located at 24-26 Clayton Boulevard, Somers, New York. The Muse deemed necessary to subordinate a home mortgage held by the county on said property and modify the terms of all home loan documents. Necessary to condition the developer's obligation to make interest-only monthly payments pursuant.
Ms. Borgia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In Chairwoman Meyer's absence, I'll take this one as well. This is a fairly standard procedure, changing from a construction bond to their long-term financing. Again, came before the Budget Committee because of the county attorney's recommendation. It seemed to be very standard, and we recommend that it be approved.
Thank you, Ms. Borgia. I'm sorry about that. I didn't realize it wasn't included in government operations. Ms. Marcotte, would you like to add to that? All right. Members, unless there's objection, we'll take the prior long roll call vote to approve this item. So ordered.
Approved 14-0. Item 5624 from the Committees on Environment and Energy and Legislation is a resolution setting a public hearing on a local law amending section 8.63.324 of the laws of Westchester County to exclude the work of installing certain solar energy devices by a described class of persons from the home improvement licensing requirements of Article 16 of Chapter 863 of the laws of Westchester County.
Mr. Kaplowitz.
Yes, set the public hearing at our next meeting, and it is on
November 13th.
November 13th at 7:30 p.m.
Thank you, Mr. Kaplowitz. Unless there's objection, members will take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the setting of the public hearing. So ordered.
Approved 14-0. Item 5625 from the Committees on Public Safety and Security and Budget and Appropriations, an act approving certain financial terms and conditions of employment requiring legislative approval by law on a collective bargaining agreement for employees represented by the Westchester County Correction Superior Officers Association for the period January 1, 2009 through December 31st, 2015.
Mr. Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As the clerk just mentioned, this is a proposed act that has been handled by two of the board's committees, the Public Safety Committee and the Budget Committee. It's before you in your packets today. It's about 24 pages long. We've had an opportunity to discuss at length with the department, the administration, and benefit of additional information provided by union leadership. The agreement is almost a mirror image of the prior agreement that we have handled with COBA earlier in the year. It covers about 120 of our senior correction personnel, including 95 sergeants, 20 captains, and 6 assistant wardens. Interestingly enough, for probably decades, it's the first long-term agreement that we have reached. It's a 7-year agreement, as you can see, and we put on the record that one of the very good questions that was raised in the two committees was, well, what preceded this, as it is for the first time in a long, long time, a multi-year collective bargaining agreement. Well, what preceded it was a series of interest arbitration awards. And the committees had an opportunity to discuss what state-appointed arbitrators did to dictate terms of an agreement under the state's Taylor law. And usually one of the big differences between having to get backed into that situation and this was that those interest arbitration awards were usually for periods of about 2 years. So this represents certainly an improvement over that, great improvement for that matter. Because it is a written long-term agreement, the first thing I'd like to draw your attention to highlight this morning is the fact that we're able to deal with probably the single most important issue in collective bargaining today, and that is health benefits. And the agreement includes a meaningful contribution, certainly, by existing members of the union, and similar, I think, we would say, to the COBA agreement. As we have been able to see through committee, there are many, many topics that this takes up. One important piece I would mention is that this is a financial, not an operational agreement. We raised the question as to how this agreement might impact operations for us in the Department of Correction. There really is none. It's pretty much strictly a financial agreement, so we don't have to be concerned about numbers and posts, other than the fact that the Commissioner did point out that we expect a big turnover in this unit in 2015, and that would be people in the 1990 class. I think that's something that we have to look at as 2015 approaches. But for now, it's pretty basic. It's pretty similar to COBA. Just quickly on the point of the source of funds, the administration, budget department has told us money for this will come from the personal service accounts and prior years 2009 through 11 reserves. We've been given cost estimates for 2013, 14, and 15, which we've been able to redo. And of course, discussion did eventually get to what provision for this contract in 2012, and the record shows in committee that there is no provision in 2012. So anyway, there it is quickly. I think that the biggest point is that finally we're away from interest arbitration awards, which quite honestly you have to kind of fall back on if nothing else is working. This is a very, very positive step, and I commend the union for its serious efforts at the table that have resulted in this 7-year agreement, which will save taxpayer money here in Westchester County.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Members on this item? Unless there's objection, members will take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 14-0. Item 5506 from the Committee on Legislation is a resolution to set a public hearing pursuant to Section 209.141 of the laws of Westchester County on local law intro number 2012-5131, entitled A Local Law Amending the Laws of Westchester County by adding a new Chapter 680, establishing a county registry for animal abuse offenders.
Mr. Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The committee is asking that we set, looking to November 13th at 7:30 p.m. for the public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Members, without objection, the public hearing will be set for November 13th at 7:30 p.m. So ordered.
Approved 14-0. Motions, resolutions, call of the districts.
All right. Mr. Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With Mr. Testa would permit me, I would like to go on the resolution for Carmela Bertolini. It's a wonderful, wonderful woman. I didn't realize she had passed away.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Mr. Harcum.
Would let the record show that Gordon said no. But fortunately, in this case, the better thinking individual over there, Mr. Testa, said yes. So.
I understand. Mr. Harcum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before I move to adjourn, I just would like to remind everybody who may be viewing that this storm is serious. Many of us have been meeting with county OEM officials Please take the warning seriously. Please stay home. Don't go out today or tomorrow, and stay safe above everything else. With that, I would move to adjourn, and we would reconvene on November 13th at 7 p.m.
Mr. Harkin, we're just going to make sure that there was no other person that wanted to speak on the item. That would be good. All right. Ms. Williams.
For all of the districts, I'd like to add the name of William Scott.
William Scott has been added. Other members? We want to thank all, Mr. Burrows. Thank you, Ms. Barcott. Mr. Burrows is added. Members, first, I want to thank you all for responding to the change that we had for this meeting earlier. You all know that the county is not closed today, so that was part of the reason to continue this meeting. But we hope that everyone is going to get home safely. Thank you for keeping the time short. If we all could stand and take a moment of silence for those mentioned in the memorial resolutions. Mr. Harkin.
I was a little ahead of myself, huh? Would move at this time to adjourn and reconvene November 13th at 7 p.m.
On the motion of Mr. Harkin, the board stands adjourned. Okay. Good, so. It failed. It's a majority. It's a majority.